It feels really good to have you in class today. For this class, we'll talk about calculus. Calculus seems to be very difficult to most students, but thank God you're in class today. It will look very, very simple before the end of the class. Under calculus, we'll consider three basic topics, which are differentiation, after that we'll look at integration, and then coordinate, geometry. But before we talk about each of them one after the other, let me start with a brief introduction into what calculus is. Calculus is simply the study of the rate of changes. Rates of change, actually. It therefore helps to determine how particles or matter in general moves with respect to time or as time changes. So this is basically what calculus is all about. This then brings us to the next thing we'll discuss, which is differentiation. When we talk about differentiation, our major focus should be on the rate at which a particular variable changes with respect to another variable. Variable in the sense that we have basically two variables. The first one is the dependent variable, while the other one is called an independent variable. By dependent, I mean a variable that cannot stand on its own. It does depend on other variables for it to have its value. Let us consider two types of variable, linking them with a particular relation called that we have over here. So we have y equal a function of x. In this case, we can see that y cannot have a variable on its own. That makes it a dependent variable. It does depend on the variable x to give it its real value. So if we have a particular function y equals 2x squared plus 1, when x equals 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. But because of our time, let us consider when x equals 1. So we have y is equal to x squared plus 1 when x equals 1. What we just have to do is to substitute the value of x into the function that we have above. So we have y is equal to 1 squared plus 1. It then gives us 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. So when x equals 1, y will be equal to 2. Let us consider another case where when x is equal to 2, if x equals 2, therefore y will be equal to 2 squared plus 1, which gives us 4 plus 1, and this is 5. This shows that y depends on variable x. In that sense, it means that y is the dependent variable and x is the independent variable. Why didn't I have to take so much time to discuss what dependent and independent variable is in differentiation? Of course, without understanding what dependent variable and independent variable means, you cannot actually understand the concept of calculus. It does not necessarily mean that we have to deal with y and x alone. We can have p and q, where p depends on q. You can have r and x, where r depends on s, and so on and so forth. All you just need to know is which of the variable is dependent and which of them is independent. With this, we'll go straight to the next concept we are going to discuss, which is the methods of differentiation. And under the methods of differentiation, we are going to consider two basic methods. The first one is the differentiation from first principle. And the second one is using the formula method. These two methods will be discussed in details in our next class, starting with the first principle differentiation. The first principle differentiation has limited application in some exams like JAMB. But in case of your WAEC, an understanding of the first principle will really help you, because they might just have to specify, okay, solve this particular function using first principle. In that case, you have no other choice than to use the first principle. But in a case where you are not asked to use any of the methods, I would advise you to use the formula method. And why do I say that? It will be visible in our next class where we'll talk about the formula method. So see you in the next class.